Urgent! The UCO has found new documents and notebooks in Ferraz related to Pedro Sanchez's dirty dealings. Let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Precautionary Measures Special Edition. It's urgent because there's a new report from the Central Operative Unit of the Civil Guard, the UCO, which has been sent to the National Court Judge Santiago Ferraz, who, as you know, is investigating the CEPI scheme, and within the CEPI scheme, one of the cases is related to the dirty dealings of the PSOE, or rather the dirty dealings of Pedro Sánchez. Pay close attention because we have the new report from the UCO and the Civil Guard agents. During the last, search, entry, request for information, whatever you want to call it, in which they went to the headquarters of the Socialist Party on Ferraz Street. They have found, attention, handwritten documents and agendas by Santos Cerdán about the dirty dealings of Pedro Sánchez. We are going to share this breaking news, as always, displaying it on the screen. And I remind you that if you haven't done so already, you need to subscribe to the Medidas Cautelares channel to get first-hand breaking news, always the first, here at Medidas Cautelares. And now we share this information that of course points even more to Santos Cerdán and his leadership. About that cesspool, which in the end is obviously the cesspool of the number one, it can't be anyone else, which is Pedro Sánchez. The UCO found a document in Ferraz that proves the leadership of Santos Cerdán in the PSOE's cesspools. The Central Operative Unit of the Civil Guard has found in the Socialist headquarters on Ferraz Street the document that proves the leadership of the former organization secretary of the party, Santos Cerdán, in the PSOE's cesspool. The head of the Central Investigative Court No. 5 of the National Court, Santiago Ferraz, is investigating in this case the former organization secretary of the PSOE, the party's fixer, Lere Diez, the businessman Javier Pérez Dolcet, the former presidency councillor of the Andalusian government, Gaspar Zarias, and the lawyer Ismael Oliver, for crimes of criminal organization, multiple offenses, bribery, disclosure of secrets, inducement to perjury, false accusation, falsification of commercial documents, malfeasance, influence peddling, and crimes against state institutions. Lawyer Jacobo Teiguelo and Guardia Civil Officer Juan Sánchez Yepes are under investigation for secret disclosure, bribery, and crimes against state institutions. A new 106-page UCO report which we accessed details the bribery. During the investigation, the lawyer's office at PSOE headquarters was authorized for the operation with an extension to collect documents and electronic devices. Data that had belonged to Santos Cerdán until his dismissal as the party's organization secretary, at which point Juan Civil went to deposit these items at the party's headquarters. Well, among the aforementioned documents belonging to Santos Cerdán, a form has been found whose content matches the text document, November 19th, 2024. Breaches, mentioned in several sections of another UCO report. As a reminder, this document was found on the Lenovo laptop seized from Lere Diez during the operations carried out in December 2025, and pay attention because we have the document, the dirty stuff, right here. This is for the officer, and we're going to read everything Juan Sánchez Yepes document for crimes of Santos Cerdán secret bribes. So then, lawyer investigates. The cloaca transfer. Officer Sánchez Yepes from the PSOE's plumber. The IR-10 to Santos Cerdán himself. Since this document is small here, I'm going to read to you exactly what this document says. It's titled Breaches, and it goes like this. Section dedicated to Commissioner Villarejo. It was revealed to us that the lawyer approached the prosecutor to meet with him to reach an agreement. When the lawyer approached, the prosecutor told him that he had a broken phone and that there would be no agreement or anything. Supposedly, the prosecutor was going to call Villarejo's lawyer, but this call never happened. Important. Villarejo has the evidence that would prove the corruption of Marchena. Jacobo to the Supreme Court Civil Guard. Juan Sánchez here Yepes, there is no corruption on Marchena's part. This is all an artifice. Investigate the sewer of Jacobo, and you have to be very careful with what is recorded in these notes, in these documents, because in the end, Lere Diez writes what she considers. Some things will be true, other things will be false, other things are things that she has heard, but that doesn't mean this is the Bible, that everything Lere Diez Diaz says in those documents, in those manuscripts is true. It is certainly a good guide to investigate many procedures, many things, but that doesn't mean that what Yepes, what Diaz reveals as secrets is true, right? Francisco Martinez, referring to the former Secretary of State for Security, the number 2 who is being investigated with the PP under Mariano Rajoy, this document by Lere Diaz in the possession of Santos Cerdán says it's the same situation as with Villarejo. Javier Perez Dolcet, the businessman from the Dirty Ops network, mentions RCD. The prosecutor's office was going to support the request from Court 10 of Barcelona regarding the bail for RCD Jacobo Civil Guard subsidiary, and they did nothing. RCD and Planeta to support the investigation opened in Judge Juan Sánchez Yepes' court for falsifying accounting, disclosure of secrets, and bribery. To the case being handled by the investigating lawyer of the National Court. Z was a company owned by Javier Perez Dolcet. ING says there is a decree from Judge Sánchez Yepes. Existe un decreto de investigación by the chief prosecutor of the National Court. For some time now, there have been revelations of secrets and bribery. It was requested to be reactivated. Gonzalo Boye, the famous Gonzalo Boye, convicted for collaborating with ETA terrorism, lawyer of Puigdemont, among others, etc. Lere's document says the prosecutors have not followed the instructions to stop offering the others, etc. Lere's document says the prosecutors have not followed the instructions to stop offering deals to those accused of attempted homicide against 3 police officers in order to incriminate Boye. The prosecutor's actions have been against Gonzalo even though Yepes has been proven for attempted crimes against 3 police officers to incriminate Boye. The prosecutor's revelations have been against Gonzalo even though irregularities have been proven in the investigation that harmed him. Secrets. What harmed him? Vale. There's also another section dedicated to the lawyer Luis Sáenz Luisa and de Tejada, the lawyer, another one of the lawyers from the sewers, who was the one going after Judge Viedma and was also assigned the task of going against Judge Marchena. The document says he was told to file the complaint with the Attorney General's office and it was dismissed immediately. As you know, a year ago in an exclusive from Medidas Cautelares and Libertad Digital, we exposed the entire operation against Judge Viedma, including audio recordings. Memory can be very fragile. The document also says there are issues that require special attention. Grinda, referring to prosecutor Jose Grinda, is one of the prosecutors they tried to buy, okay? By the deep state. It says he's the prosecutor behind all the cases of the Patriotic Police and the cases in Catalonia. Luzon, who is the chief anti-corruption prosecutor. Grinda's boss, he's in charge of the hydrocarbons trial. There's a possibility that the trial could be annulled because all the open cases stem from a judicial investigation where recordings and informant contacts are made, but they're illegally taken from those cases to start these new ones. And then, at the end of the document, he also adds 111,129 actions agreement with Villarejo, agreement with Francisco Martinez. And here you have the document we just wrote with all the sections for Villarejo, Francisco Martinez, Javier Pérez de Dolce, Gonzalo Boye, Luisa de Tejada, Grinda, and Luzon. Okay? What does the UCO say after analyzing this document? Well, they say that the fact that this document, whose audit would correspond to Lere, was found in the possession of Santos Cerdán, shows the reporting carried out by Lere. It is considered relevant that this document makes reference to many of the lines of action carried out by Lere. Villarejo, the former Secretary of State for Security Francisco Martinez, and as will be seen later, he tells Judge Beatriz Viedma through the reference of Luis Sáenz de Tejada. It also mentions Grinda, or the Chief Prosecutor of the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, Alejandro Luzon. Regarding former Commissioner Villarejo, the text describes what appears to be a failed attempt to put Cabrera, who is Villarejo's lawyer, in contact with the prosecutor from Rivas. This would indicate that Santos Cerdán would receive updates about Lere's activities in this regard. Okay, this is one of the 2 pieces of information I wanted to share with you, but it's not the only one. There's also another very interesting one. It's worth sharing because handwritten notebooks by Santos Cerdán himself have also been found. And here you have it on the screen, let's explain it as well. The UCO has found notebooks belonging to Santos Cerdán with notes against Judge Viedma Badajoz, and the prosecutor's office supports the recusal. And here you have precisely this handwritten note by Santos Cerdán himself. The Guardia Civil's Central Operational Unit also found handwritten notebooks from former Socialist Organization Secretary Santos Cerdán about the PSOE's dirty tricks, which aim to target Judge Beatriz Viedma with explicit support from the prosecutor's office. And it is literally written by hand, Badajoz, that the prosecutor's office should support the challenge. You know, they tried to challenge Judge Viedma. Well, let me remind you, the magistrate was the one in charge of conducting the investigation into the possible crimes of the president of the government's brother, David Sánchez, whose case is now pending a verdict. That's why the PSOE's dirty tricks aim to ruin the magistrate's reputation, and to do so they contacted several people who were being or had been investigated by Viedma. According to a new report from the UCO which we have accessed, the socialist fixer met with the businessman Joaquin Parra. He told the UCO about the fixer, Lire 10. She wanted to control the defense of Pedro Sanchez's brother, asking him to fire his lawyer and instead hire the attorney, Sánchez de Tejada, who is close to the PSOE's inner circles. Regardless of the fact that this change of lawyer was not accepted, according to open sources, Sánchez de Tejada would have still tried in March 2025 to challenge Judge Viedma after requesting to join the proceedings as a popular prosecutor. I reported all of this exclusively a year ago. It should be noted in this regard, says the UCO, that the notes in Lire's notebooks considered both possibilities, both taking on the defense of David Sánchez and joining the case as a private prosecutor. Como acusación popular. Some notes from Lire 10's notebooks, which the Civil Guard agents linked to other handwritten notes, in this case from Santos Cerdán. And it says, to these references to a possible recusal, we must add a note found in one of Santos Cerdán's notebooks collected during the search at the PSOE headquarters on Ferraz Street. The handwritten text seems to indicate Badajoz that the prosecutor's office should support the recusal. And here you have the document, and here it says Badajoz that the prosecutor's office should support the recusal of Judge Viedma, okay? This is the handwritten text supposedly of Santos Cerdán. It should be noted that in this particular case, the Socialist Dirty Ops network would not have achieved its intentions, since the prosecutor's office, even though it decided not to press charges in the process investigating David Sánchez, rejected the recusal of Judge Viedma. On the first day of the trial, the prosecutor defended the honorability and good faith of the judge, investigating Judge of Badajoz. And this is the latest information we've shared with you here on precautionary measures. A new report from the Central Operative Unit of the Civil Guard, UCO, has been sent to the judge of the National Court, Santiago Ferraz, who is investigating the Socialist Party's underground network. The UCO points out that during the search at the PSOE headquarters on Ferraz Street, documents and handwritten notes by Santos Cerdán himself were found. Among the documents, one stands out in the possession of Santos Cerdán, which was allegedly sent to him by the PSOE's fixer, Lire X, and would serve as an account report. In other words, Lire X reported to Santos Cerdán on the progress of the operations of the Socialist Party's Dirty Tricks Department, also known as Pedro Sánchez's Dirty Tricks Department. In addition, investigators found some notebooks belonging to Santos Cerdán at that location in Ferraz, in which he made direct reference to the judge's target, Viedma, who at that time was investigating the brother of the Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, whose name is David Sánchez, and who was attempted to be removed from the investigation. Well, all this information is now in the hands of the National Court Judge Santiago Ferraz from this new explosive UCO report about the Socialist Party's dirty dealings, the dirty dealings of Pedro Sánchez. And that's it for this edition of Precautionary Measures. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me your comments and opinions. Thank you very much for your attention, for continuing to support this channel, this great community, so that you always have the best information. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell so the video pops up on your devices when we upload new information here on Precautionary Measures. You already know you can join as chosen members for under €3 a month or as supreme members for under €7 a month. You can also make contributions via Bizum at 62755636370, 62755636370. The most important thing, as I always say, is that this information reaches everyone because information is power. See you soon.